food lines?
Yes, I do, yeah, sure.
How about, I've always seen photographs of people selling apples on the street.
Yeah,
Did
people
that
sold
really happen?
apples on the street corners and so forth. So this really went on until 1941 when Pearl Harbor was attacked. And war raged in Germany and Japan. We got into it on both fronts.
So when did you join the Navy?
Yeah, and well, my brother went, and he enlisted, and I figured anything he could do, I could do. So in 1943, I enlisted, and I served until 1946. But I was not on a ship or handling a gun or anything. They sent me to the procurement division, and I was busy purchasing supplies for the ships and bases. And it was snafu all the time. We sent shipments for Africa to Alaska and so forth. Things got really fouled up. But I often wonder how we won the war. Things were so fouled up with the supplies and so forth, but we did. And at that period of time, we had the golden age of radio. Radio became very popular, and you couldn't walk down the street at 7 o'clock then you didn't hear Amos and Andy from somebody's house. And the comedians like Fred Allen and the Goldbergs and so forth. And then at that time you had the Saturday matinees where you could go for a dime and watch Flash Gordon or Jack Armstrong, and then of course we had our great movie heroes, Joan Crawford and Greta Garbo and Lana Turner and Clark Gable and Tyrone Power, and they made some really great movies. In fact, I think one of the greatest of all was Gone with the Wind. And that was made in 1939.
Did they have air conditioning in the theaters?
No. You could sit up in the balcony. A lot of theaters had balconies, and they had fans up in the balconies and so forth. But air conditioning didn't come for a long time. But finally, in 1946, I was discharged. They kept me about 6 months extra to work on the war contracts, dismantle the innumerable war contracts. And I was stuck at that job for about 6 months. But
where were you stationed?
In Washington. But they would give you a ticket to anywhere you wanted to go. So I had I had a good friend from Buffalo, and we decided, what the heck, why go home right away? We took the Greyhound bus to Hollywood.
Oh, wow.
They didn't have commercial aviation until after the war, when they started that. So we would travel in the daytime on the bus and then just get off someplace when it got to be 4 or 5 o'clock. And usually you could find a place to stay and some kind of a hash house or someplace to eat, and people were most kind. And, come on up to the house, the wife will give you dinner, Really nice people that you meet along the way. And when we got to Hollywood, we said, we went to the Travelers Bureau, and they said, the Actors Studio will take in service people. they have an annex. So we stayed at the Actors Studio Annex for about 9 months. And it was 75 cents a night, and meals were 50 cents. and we would travel around on weekends, and we ran out of money, but we got a job at the telephone company on Hollywood Boulevard. And they said, well, we're going to make you service reps. So they said, you can start training, shortly. So we said, okay. Then we got an attack of conscience. And we said, we better tell them we really don't plan to stay in Hollywood, because I had a job in New York at a chemical company, and I had a year to reclaim the job. So we had the golden age of radio. My father got sick, and Mom really wanted me to come home. So I left there after 9 months. And
but they told you it was okay, right?
Yeah, well, they said since we were honest enough to tell them, we could just be gophers. So we filled in any place they needed anybody to fill in, and Dorothy had to use a company car because you didn't have emails to send around. You had to travel over to different offices and so forth. They said, you can stay as long as you like, as long as you were honest enough that we didn't have to spend the money training you. Lana Turner and Clark Gable and finally at the end of 46, really great I went back to New York and reclaimed my job with American Cyanamid, which was a chemical company. 1939. And
did they have air conditioning in the theater?
well, I was working the Rockefeller Center. There was you could sit up in the YWCA on 51st Street, and we heard that it was a kind of a gathering place for service people. And they had, in the summertime, they had roof dances on the Y. And I went there with girls from the office, and some guy asked me to dance, and it was Jim McDermott, and well, the rest is history. No, that wasn't exactly the case. He found out that I lived in Jersey and he lived in Brooklyn. So I would take the bus in from Jersey and meet him at the Port Authority, and we might go to a dance or theater, but then he decided he ought to be taking me home. So the last bus to Jersey was about 11 o'clock, and then he could get one back to New York around midnight, and he had to get on the subway to go to Brooklyn, and he would always invariably fall asleep and wind up in Brooklyn.
You wind up in Coney Island?
After
Coney Island.
daytime in the Coney Island. Just get off someplace. So after a year, we decided to get married. Find a place to stay and some kind
Your
of
mom
a
approved
house
of you
someplace to eat.
taking the bus and
People were most
meeting him up on the
kind.
roof?
Yeah, well, he didn't have a car. Up to the house, the wife will give you dinner. And it was right after the war. Really nice. I don't think we got our first car until after we were married. And when we got to Hollywood, we had a fourth floor walk up in Brooklyn.
Wow.
Travelers.
That'll keep you in shape.
Yeah, that'll keep you in shape. Well, it kept me in shape until I got pregnant, I guess. And then we bought our first house in Jersey. So we stayed
How much was it?
$4,000. 9 months. And you could, it was 75 cents a night. And meals were 50 cents. and we would travel around on weekends, and we ran out of money, but we got a job in the Navy, and I got out of there on Hollywood Boulevard. Well, then came the 50s, and I said, well, we're going to make you mom in the 50s, I guess. So I kind of lived before the pill, I think. I said, okay, then we got five children, and his mother did this.
8 years?
We better tell them.
Well,
we 10 years. Don't
10
plan
years,
10 years. Hollywood every 2 years.
Yeah.
I had a job in New York. And I had a year to reclaim the job. Anyway, they were, very busy years, and Mom really wanted me to follow the kids into all kinds of activities. Left there. Jim had the idea that if you kept them busy and kept them in sports, they wouldn't get into trouble. So he had them in Little League and the Hockey League, just be golfers, Basketball League, and any place they needed anybody, a lot of driving around, and Dorothy had spent a lot of time in the Little League and spent a lot of time have emails to send around yet. Freshmen stand over to different offices for the games and so forth. They said,
What can you tell us about
Joanne
Joanne as a child?
we didn't have to spend the money.
Model child, huh?
No, yeah, she was more of a docile child. She was pretty 46, easy. And went back
Now
to
Mary.
the next one was a little more.
My sister Mary was, Ross, she bossed me around.
It's working and Claire and them all weren't bad, but when we got to Kevin, he was the baby, and
He was a pistol.
he was a tyrant. The baby rules everybody, And they had, in the summertime, they had roof dances. Anyway, why? And there were girls from the office. At that time, of course, some guy asked me to dance, and it was Jim McDemott. We had the Cold War then, and stuff like McCarthy. Well, the rest is history. No, that wasn't exactly the case. The Korean War.
Hard to get.
He found out that I lived in Jersey and he lived in Brooklyn. Big, So. The big thing, I would take the bus in from Jersey and meet him at the Port Authority, and we might go to a dance or theater. That was the greatest. He decided we ought to be taking me home. We had a little 12. The last bus to Jersey was about 11, I think, and gradually, and then he could get one back to New York around midnight. And he had to get on the subway and go to Brooklyn, and he would always invariably fall asleep and wind up in Brooklyn. That was the 50s. And then we got to the 60s. After
Coney Island.
Yeah.
Coney Island. They all lived through the Vietnam War. After a year, we decided to get married. And the assassinations of the Kennedys
Your mom
and
approved
Martin
of you
Luther
taking the bus and
King
meeting him
and
up
the
on
hippies. Yeah, well, he didn't have protests. And it was right after the war. Landing on the moon. I don't think we got our first car until after we were married. That was one of the biggest things in my life. And we had a fourth floor walk up in Brooklyn.
Wow. That'll keep you in shape.
Yeah, that'll keep me in shape. Well, it kept me in shape until I got pregnant, I guess. And then we bought our first house as a shrine to the Beatles on the second floor. They had Beatle pictures all over the place. And Beatle, a lot of
Yeah, I like George.
George and Ringo, and that was the Beatle area. That was a good time. I told you. Anyway, in 1970, and I got out. In 1969, well, then came the 50s, and I had one in college and one out of college, and two in and one out, and I kind of lived before the pill, I think. Needed money for college. So five children. I reestablished my career working for Lipton Tea.
Yeah.
Well, 10 years.
10 years.
And
Yeah.
eventually, every 2 years, manager of their consumer services. Like I told them, it was a tough time for women. They were, very busy years, and we followed the kids into all kinds of activities. Jim had the idea that if you kept them busy and kept them in sports, they wouldn't get into trouble. Anything to me. He had them in Little League and the Hockey League. And of course they said Basketball League. Apologetically, we'll do a lot of driving around job and on a trial basis. A lot of time in the Little League. We can't spend a lot of time in the same you know, the refreshment stand. It took quite a few years before the games and so forth. The
What can you tell us
salary in
about
that
Joanne as a
company.
child?
Eventually, I worked my way up, I guess. But
Model child, huh?
no, yeah, she was more of a docile child. She was pretty easy. I don't.
Now Mary,
The next one was a little more.
my sister Mary was, she come across her, she bossed me around.
And it was 20 years. You know, Claire and Paul weren't bad, but when we got to Kevin, he was the baby, and
He was a pistol.
he was a tyrant. The baby rules everybody, you know. He was a tyrant. But anyway, computers at that workplace. At that time, of course, no longer worked with. You know, we had the Cold War then, and stuff like McCarthyism. It was called UNIVAC first. Some Korean War, and this is our new computer. Elvis Presley was big, you know. It took a long time before we got the big thing, I think, in the 50s was the advent of color TV. But boy, that was the greatest when we got it. First we had a little 12-inch one, I think, and gradually we got a larger color TV. Living out of space and get back again. That was the 50s. Well, then we got to the 60s, and you know the 60s wars.
Yeah.
You all lived through the Vietnam, Iraqi War, and the assassinations of the Kennedys and Martin Luther King, and the hippies, and the war protests, and landing on the moon in 1969. I think that was one of the biggest things in my life, was when the idea that we could land on the moon. I continued to live alone in the condo, but some kids broke in. And after that, the Beatles. Our house was a shrine to the Beatles on the second floor. I had Beatle pictures all over the place.
Yeah, I like George.
George and Ringo, and that was the Beatle area. Down on the floor, that was all the sheets and all. I guess they thought that. But anyway, in 1969, you know, I had one in college and one out of college, and two in and one out, and anyway, had series of needing money for college. So I went back to work and I reestablished my career working for Lipton Tea, and eventually became manager of their consumer services department. A good deal because, but like I told them, to live with her, and she doesn't have to live time with me. For women. They proposed that I be promoted. You know, but I was sent to New York for psychological testing. She's over there if I need her, just to see if I. And sometimes I do, whether I would dissolve into tears if somebody said anything to me. I guess, but. And of course they said, with apologetically, well, we'll give you the boss's job and on a trial basis, but sorry, we cannot give you the same salary. It took quite a few years before I got parity for the man's salary in that company.
But you did eventually.
Eventually I worked my way up, I guess. But
And did you stand up and say, I had 4 children, I can do anything?
Bye. Well, I don't think I did that, you know. You had to work your way up and hope for the best, you know. So anyway, I worked almost 20 years for Lipton before I retired in 1986. But anyway, in the 70s or 80s, we had Watergate. And that was a big deal. And computers. Computers came into the workplace. No longer worked with a little adding machine or you got, it was called Univac first. Some great big monster. They said, this is our new computer, Univac. It took a long time before we got to personal computers, I think, in the workplace. But anyway, then the space flights, the first space flights were pretty spectacular, I think. That somebody could go out there and live in outer space and get back again. And of course, we then had a couple of more wars, the Gulf War and the Afghanistan War and the Iraqi War, and finally in 1986, I retired and went to a condo in Newport Richey, where Jim and I stayed for 24 years. And then when he passed, I continued to live alone in the condo, but some kids broke in, and after that, Joanne said, you better move someplace closer because it isn't safe, But these were kids, I think, because when I came home one Sunday night, they had pulled out all my bedding. They pulled a mattress down on the floor and took all the sheets and all. I guess they thought that old people hide money in the mattress.
Not this old person.
I never hid any money in the mattress, but anyway, that's what the cops said. They thought that kids must have believed. And then they didn't take anything but some, costume jewelry, some bling, bling out of the drawer, I think. So eventually Joanne found Southport Square, and that's been a good deal because I don't have to live with her and she doesn't have to live with me.
Thank God.
But it's worked out fine because she's over there if I need her, and sometimes I do.
She's still mothering you 70 years later?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Never stop.
And so it's worked out well, I think, for us.
You got a nice place.
Because I can live independently, but I can still be alone if I wish. And I've made friends, and it's not perfect, but it's probably a good solution. You don't have to live in with family, and they have my favorite cat over there, Blue Kitty. Anyway, I appreciate, the caring people who, like Joanne and Richard, have planned this event, especially since I couldn't have the rest of the family. But as I told some of you, I used modern technology this morning and Zoomed with, I think it was 24 people we Zoomed with.
Yeah.
From Hawaii all the way across the country to Los Angeles.
That's the secret of getting older, is being flexible and embracing these opportunities, right?
Yeah, well, that's what the kids told me. They'd never write a letter. That I might as well learn to use email,
I taught her to Zoom.
If you want to hear from us, get on the email or something. And then luckily Zoom was invented this past year. and
Yeah.
we have used it.
I never even heard of Zoom in January. Now it's my life.
Yeah, we're all getting around, but it really came into its own.
Yeah.
I said at the beginning I should have bought
So,
stuff.
Yeah.
and then the people in Southport were very, very caring. The fact that I couldn't have family there, they had this afternoon they had a little reception at the town hall, and I had about 30 people come, and we had to keep our distance and so forth. But it was just, a very nice thing that they wanted to celebrate my special day. And lastly, I guess I'd take a moment to, remember all those people that went ahead of us and that supported us and along the way and loved us and added, special graces to my life and made it an interesting life.
Yay!
Nicely done.
So I'd like to tell about Marie's computer experience.
No more speeches, yay!
Happy